Good morning. Thank you for having me. So today I decided that instead of dissecting Appendix C and all of its requirements, I thought that it would actually be more beneficial for you guys if we just discuss some of the issues that DOH has been observing most recently at construction sites. And this is something that has not only been occurring here on Oahu, but it's also been observed on the neighbor islands as well. And because of it, it has resulted in enforcement actions being issued. And these enforcement actions included hefty penalties, lots of ordered corrective actions. There were also community concerns where private citizen suits were also filed. So what it really comes down to is failing to have a plan. The three issues that I want to discuss today, the first one has to deal with failing to identify drainage ways or state waters in the planning phase of your project prior to even requesting an NPDES permit. The second one I want to discuss has to do with total common plan of development. I know a lot of people struggle with understanding this, so I hope to be able to explain this a little better and provide you some examples. And then the last issue that I wanted to bring up has to do with clarifying what we're talking about when we mean construction activities and what we mean when we say earth disturbances. The example that I will be using throughout this presentation failed to address all three of these issues. However, as I already mentioned, this is not an isolated event. This has been occurring throughout the state, which is why I thought it was most important to provide it to you today so that you can make sure that it doesn't affect your construction site. This example is of a construction project. It's located on the windward side of Oahu in the Olomana area, which is located between Kailua and Waimanalo. So right off the bat, you're dealing with an area that's particularly wet, subject to rainy weather. It is situated on the mountainside upstream of Ka'elepulu wetland, which is home to endangered Hawaiian birds. So right there, you know that there's a community involvement. The project entails development of a residential subdivision of 23 lots. That are ranging in size for a total disturbed area calculated to be just over 49 acres. The project involves grading of lots, installation of infrastructure such as the roadways and driveways, as well as a private drain system. The developer who pulled the NGPC for this project anticipated doing it done in 3 phases. And home construction of the individual lots is not a part of this project. Taking a closer look at the project, you can see that there is a stream that transects the site. The project relies solely on a sediment basin as their BMP for retention and treatment of stormwater runoff from the site. But if you could believe it or not, the basin was constructed in the state water. So the curb drain inlets that were built along the roadways goes into culvert A-2, which is identified in purple here, that one. So all of the site runoff goes through culvert A-2 before entering the basin for retention and treatment. Culvert A-1 here in black was constructed in line with the unnamed intermittent stream. So it was concluded that the basin is essentially in the unnamed intermittent stream that is a part of the Ka'elepulu stream system. In addition to the basin being constructed in a state water, the basin was also not sized appropriately. The civil engineers who designed the basin depended on the project area for a 2-year, 24-hour storm event. However, since it wasn't identified that it was in a drainage way, we all know how gravity works. Water's always going to flow downhill. So therefore, the basin should have been sized to accommodate water from the entire drainage way and not just the project. This is what the basin looks like in real life. As I mentioned, culvert A-2 here, that collects stormwater runoff from the site. And culvert A-1 here is what is in line with the intermittent stream. You can see how in close proximity they are to each other. Flows from both culvert will connect and commingle prior to entering the basin. And this is the outflow that will continue it to Ka'elepulu stream. Some information regarding basins, besides the fact that they shouldn't be constructed in state waters, is that whether they're planned to be temporary or permanent, they should not be your only BMP. You need to implement erosion and sediment control on the upward parts of your sites to improve the efficiency of your basins. And then some Appendix C requirements is that your slopes of your basins, they need to be stabilized. Otherwise, they're just going to contribute pollutants. And also, your basins need to be maintained. All of the accumulated sediment needs to be dredged or removed in order to maintain the capacity of the basins. So I hope this works, but this is a video that was taken at the site of a rain event. Now, this is not no Tropical Storm Olivia, Hurricane Lane type of event. This is just normal rainfall that occurs at the site on any given day. So the darker brown color is what is coming from something happened. Should I try it again? This darker brown is coming from culvert A1, which is the one that's in line with the stream. And let's see if it works. It's going to commingle with the lighter brown, which is what is coming off of the site through culvert A-2. And it's entering the basin. And of course, this video doesn't work because it worked in the office, but it's not going to work here. What it didn't show was the next few seconds of the basin is just overflowing, and then it's just going straight out the outfall. There has no time for retention. It has no time for treatment. Therefore, making the basin just capacity wasn't enough. So the take-home message is that for this is, first of all, don't construct your basins in state waters, but also size your basins appropriately and implement erosion and sediment controls throughout your site. And then, although some drainage ways may not be classified as state waters, it's still in your best interest to treat them as such, since their primary function is to collect and transport water that will ultimately enter into a state water. So I'm going to transition next into the Total Common Plan of Development, or also known as a larger Common Plan of Development. And what that basically means is that if your construction activity that involves smaller projects that are a part of a larger development that will collectively disturb one or more acre. So going back to our example of Olomana, although this construction project was anticipated to be done in phases, even if any of those phases were less than 1 acre, because it is a part of a Total Common Plan of Development, it would all need to be NPDES permitted. It doesn't really matter if the developer or the permittee wants to capture the phases all under one permit or if they wanted to have it under separate permits. It doesn't really matter. Main thing that it's all covered. Now, if you remember for this project, home construction was not identified on the permit application. However, when they sell the lots and the homeowner decides to do construction on their home, if they're gonna disturb 1 or more acre, then they would also need to obtain an NPDES permit as well. The next example has to do with a linear construction project. We should all be familiar right now by the rail. Since the total linear miles of the area disturbed is greater than 1 acre, an NPDES permit is required. HART chooses to separate their stations and guideways into separate permits, which once again, it's fine as long as it's all permitted. DOH doesn't really care. But I know DOH would prefer to have it under 1 permit since it would make our lives a little easier. But at the end of the day, main thing is permitted. And the take-home message for this is just to ensure that you have permit coverage for all parts of your construction. And then also do not submit your notice of cessation to close your NPDES permit until all of your construction activities that was included in your NOI or your application is complete. We're doing really good on time, folks. The last issue has to do with discussing or clarifying earth disturbances. Most of you already know that DOH issues permits for discharge of stormwater associated with construction activities that are greater than 1 acre or more, or if it's a part of a total common plan of development. But most people only think as earth disturbance as grubbing or grading. However, clearing of vegetation is also considered an earth disturbance. In this photo here, you can see the area that was cleared and the immediate surroundings is still heavily forested, providing a clear delineation between the 2 areas. Now, although the roots are still intact, this clearing removed the natural canopy and made this area more susceptible to erosion. This is another video that's probably not gonna work, but we'll try it anyways. This is the discharge that was occurring from this area that was just cleared. Once again, the roots were still intact. And this was the source of that lighter brown water that we've seen in the previous video. And just keep in mind, there are also no erosion or sediment control BMPs implemented at the site. So this cleared area was over 1 acre, but even if it was less than 1 acre, because it is a part of a total common plan of development, an NPDES permit is still required. And the take-home message for this is that, activities that will make your area susceptible to erosion, which includes clearing of vegetation, not only just grubbing and grading, needs to be NPDES permitted. And the most important thing to take away from all of this is to just make sure that you have a plan. Planning prevents problems. You want to stay ahead of the curve, otherwise you will forever be behind. And it'll take less time and money planning on the front end than it would be being stuck in an enforcement action with DOH. You'll be dealing with penalties, you'll be dealing with corrective actions, you'll be dealing with MAT, and you don't want to do that. So all jokes aside, please just make sure that you have a plan so that this doesn't affect your construction site. And we're done. Yeah.